If the Collen Award is the Mount Rushmore of informatics, Bob Greenis deserves to be up there.
Bob Greenis was born June 17, 1940 in Cleveland, Ohio. When he was 4, his sister Sandy completed the Greenis family. Dad Isidore and Mom Mildred owned a hardware store in a Polish neighborhood, and Bob helped out in the store while growing up. Bob attended Cleveland Heights High School, and while attending a meeting of the College Discussion Club when he was 17, Bob met a lovely young girl named Carol, who was 15. Both were smitten, but had no idea they'd wind up spending the rest of their lives together. For her part, Carol says she was attracted to Bob because of his cleverness and his 1956 blue and white Chevrolet Bel Air convertible. Upon graduation, Bob took himself and his convertible to the University of Michigan, and Carol followed. And shortly thereafter, when Bob was 21 and Carol 19, they became man and wife. And while at Michigan, they used to walk past a small brick building that housed the computing center. And every time, one would say, "What do you think they do there?" And the other would answer, "Compute."
I first began to have experience with computers as an undergraduate at the University of Michigan in my senior year when I took a computer course. Based on that, when I arrived at Harvard for medical school in 1962, I looked around for people in the medical environment who were working with computers.
And as the quest for a computer orientation in his life grew, Bob Greenis would become the very embodiment of the saying, "Luck is when opportunity knocks and you answer."
I've had the wonderful luck and opportunity to begin my career in the field of biomedical informatics, much at the same time as the field itself was beginning to take shape. In 1964, Octo Barnett came to Mass General Hospital to run the hospital portion of a project called the Hospital Computer Project. I joined this project as soon as I learned about it.
He was one of a brilliant group of young computernicks who created a new language and a new vision of the potential role of computer technology in medical care.
There was a lot of naivety and optimism in those days. The idea was to implement a time-shared operating system on a PDP-1 computer, one of the first time-sharing systems in the country.
The system delivered medical applications utilizing teletype machines and 10 character per second modems. Bob even had a teletype machine in the bedroom of their apartment that he sometimes used to balance the checkbook.
Neil Pappalardo and Kurt Marble and I began to think about the possibility of developing medical applications using a new operating system and computer language that we would develop on a PDP-7 computer in the laboratory.
They called the system MUMPS, and not only did they develop it, but they convinced Octo Barnett that further development of the hospital computer project should be done with their new language and operating system. Well, Octo bought in, but they would also have to convince an NIH site visit team to renew their grant.
Don Lindbergh, Homer Warner, Maury Collen, Carlos Valbona, Max Woodbury, and Carol Newton were the site visitors. And we tried to convince them that this unproven language could do the job. Well, needless to say, the site visit was a success and the project went forward.
As he finished medical school, Bob confounded his advisors by turning away from the traditional path of internship and residency, choosing instead to apply for a postdoctoral fellowship from NIH and pursue a PhD in computer science at Harvard.
This was a wonderful opportunity because the program was very flexible and I was able to take courses at both Harvard and MIT, including a course in decision and control by Howard Rafa, one of the fathers and founders of the field of decision science.
I think there was some appreciation, some ability to see the future in Bob that made him realize long before almost anybody else that the role of the computer in improving health care was going to be enormous. And he took a chance.
In fact, Bob thinks he may have been the first person to combine an MD and a PhD in computer science, setting his sights on a career in what was later to become biomedical informatics.
I decided to do a thesis on structured capture of progress notes by physician data entry in a hypertension clinic at Mass General Hospital. To do this project, with the help of engineers, we developed a touchscreen computer interface to a CRT display terminal. We did this by pasting aluminum strips on the screen at points where selections could be made and connecting those strips with wires to a capacitance circuit. And this actually worked very well on warm and humid days. But on dry days, we actually had to lick our fingers to make contact, and then we had to sanitize the screen afterwards.
I think Bob more tends to investigate questions and to pound out and insist on answers to a problem. I think he sees a problem as an opportunity for research and inquiry. That's what makes a good teacher to begin with.
Another important aspect of Bob's mentorship is that he taught me how to be a mentor. He showed me that it's not just a matter of teaching someone or critiquing their work, but really keeping an eye out for their career and the directions that they're headed.
I can remember years ago, he was very interested, again, with foresight in the Apple machine. And they had some programs that allowed you to make associations and sort of build almost toy databases. And he got a lot out of those. And he used that, again, in this teaching mode so that a person could go ahead and develop the conceptually interesting problems without being bogged down by the weeks and weeks of program writing. So I think he has been an excellent mentor, no doubt, for many people.
Well, I was personally very excited to hear that Bob Greenis was selected as this year's Morris Collen awardee, since Bob has arguably been the single most consistent influence on my professional career since my early days as a Harvard undergraduate, when I went over to Dr. Barnett's lab and was paired up with Bob as his research assistant while he was doing his PhD in the late 1960s.
In 1978, Bob moved to Brigham and Women's Hospital as a radiologist. And in 1980, he established the Decision Systems Group, a research and development laboratory in biomedical informatics.
I've had the great opportunity of working with wonderful and talented people in the DSG over the next 27 years and watching it grow and develop.
Among the first projects I proposed to Bob was creating an expert system to help with the diagnosis of dysmorphic children. At the time, Bob himself was thinking about knowledge representation using algorithms, and he counter-offered a suggestion that I pursue a problem he was wrestling with. Now, one of Bob's most enviable qualities is his ability to focus on a problem until it gets solved. Each month, I'd offer a fresh expert system proposal at our meetings, and each month he'd patiently re-describe for me the issue with the CAT scan and how he thought it would make a good fellow project. Finding an answer to Bob's question sowed a seed that has led to a line of research that continues to this day. Thank you, Bob.
I want to congratulate Bob Greenis on this award on behalf of the Decision Systems Group and the Boston Area Training Program. It's been 12 years working together with Bob, and those were great times. I learned a lot, and except for grant deadlines and site visits, we had a lot of fun. Bob is also a great friend, and I still remember him coming and visit me after the birth of my third son, come with flowers and ask the question, "Is this your last one?" Bob left a great legacy here in Boston, and we miss him very much.
I was just totally struck with the sophistication, the innovation, and the out-of-box thinking that was taking place in his laboratory. He really forced us to think non-traditionally and challenged us on our assumptions and forced us to think beyond what was really capable at the time.
The way I really got to know Bob was that for almost 20 years we shared an office cluster and a secretary together. Now that's really getting intimate, and it showed me that Bob had many special characteristics above and beyond his great intellectual talent as an informatician and as an excellent diagnostic radiologist. It showed me that he was patient, that he was flexible, that he was willing to share, and he was always a good colleague and friend.
In my mind, Bob Greenis will always be associated with the early years of the UMLS project. He was at that time utterly consistent, and throughout the rest of his career, I believe as well, in saying that what we really needed was some good tools that would make the UMLS resources more useful and usable to people. So Bob was really ahead of the curve and brave to be working solely or heavily on the tool side when there was absolutely nothing like platform independence. In fact, in a period in which platform independence was a pipe dream.
I've come to believe that informatics is a terrific vehicle for social engineering. If one has a good idea and can bring people together to test it, to explore it, to expand on it, and to use it, we've actually created something that was not there before.
By 2007, Bob and Carol had called Boston home for more than 4 decades. Their son David is a pediatrician in Needham, Massachusetts, with wife Jackie and their 4 sons. And Bob's mom Millie will soon celebrate her 90th birthday. So maybe the time was right for change. You see, Arizona State University wanted Bob to chair its biomedical informatics department, which would be the centerpiece of a new biomedical science complex being built in downtown Phoenix.
The move has turned out to be a very enlightening and exciting experience, with the openness to collaboration and the willingness to build bigger and better things to improve health and health care.
When I moved to Arizona and agreed to be the interim chair of a newly formed Department of Biomedical Informatics, one of my major goals was to find a permanent chair. One of the first names that came to my mind was Bob Greenis, given his background in informatics education and his profile as a cutting-edge researcher in his field.
You came to ASU from Harvard. You've done a fantastic job here building our Department of Biomedical Informatics, but far more than that, and I think as an example of the kind of impact that you've had throughout your entire life, you've come in and you start taking on big questions and big issues.
Clearly, the pace at which Bob has progressed biomedical informatics and made it an integral part of many clinical, translational research and academic opportunities in Arizona is reflective of the kind of person Bob is in terms of being able to advance things rapidly as well as with a very high quality. Bob, we are very proud of you and congratulations on this award which truly recognizes your accomplishments.
I'm very grateful for the recognition signified by the Morris F. Collen Award. It is indeed an honor to follow in the footsteps of giants such as Maury Collen.
I close with a distortion of a 12th century metaphor made famous by Isaac Newton. I hope you Latin scholars will forgive my pronunciation and translation. Nanos gigantum humoraris incidentes, which I shall loosely translate as, much of the work of we dwarfs in clinical decision-making has benefited by standing on Bob's shoulders.